are they? They don't come anymore because we're going to mark them down and tell them if they don't come to the class. I can't just take the midterm, get a good mark, and expect to do well in the class. So you must tell these young ladies here who obviously are offended by my lack of precision in Islam or whatever they don't like about the way I approach Islam, that they're expected to come. Whoever knows them should tell them that they're going to be marked down if they don't show up. Because we want them to know this material about the way Westerners see the study of Islam, and they don't come into the class just to study it from a Muslim perspective and get a decent grade. So please pass that word on. Whoever you know who's not showing up because they got a decent grade on the midterm, that we're going to pay you back if you don't show up. I told you that at the beginning of the term. I'm telling you that now. I'm going to look at the attendance sheets, which reminds me, I don't have my bag with the attendance sheet. You want to rip me out a page? Put a date on the top. Who's got a piece of paper? You got enough paper there to lend me one? Good. Put the date on there, pass it around. We're going to get really serious about this stuff from here on to the end. I promise you, if you're not on there, you'll start to lose a grade point. You'll go from an A to a B to a C. I'm going to reckon that in and tell everyone who's not showing up that that is the truth. Some of you know these people, and I want you to pass that word along to them. I can't state it any stronger than that, because this is so important. Here's where Western scholars disagree with Muslims, and they should be the first ones to hear this. They're the ones who need to know this, so that they can decide which is the right approach, not just ignore what Western scholars say. Western scholars have studied this material extremely carefully. And it turned out that as the hadith got to be very widespread, collectors of hadith went all over the Muslim world, the Abbasid Empire, the Umayyad Empire in Spain, everywhere, to the far reaches of the empires, and collected these stories. And in the end, you know, just about everything in culture got put into the Prophet's mouth, even the Lord's Prayer from Christianity. Well, I'm sure the Prophet didn't utter the Lord's Prayer from Christianity. So it was clear that the Hadith literature is often about as reliable as the Gospel literature is. Some of it may be, some of it may not be. In fact, the parallel to the Hadith is the Gospels. What's the parallel to the Quran in Christianity? Paul's letters. Because Paul's letters are actual autobiographical account of what a person thinks. They're not in poetry. The Quran is an actual autobiographical account of the prophet's revelation from his own hand. It would appear, or that's the point that most people are supposed to accept. The Gospels are stories about Jesus, the same way that the Hadith are materials about the prophet. You see the parallel there? So the Gospels, and they're even called the good news about Jesus. The Gospels are the Hadith literature about Jesus. And the Quran are Paul's and other people's letters, but mostly Paul, because he wrote the most letters in the construction of Christianity. And that's true, that's the way it came first. The letters come first in Christianity. The Gospels come later. We don't know when the Gospels were finally put in the form we know them. Only that by the time Constantine holds his Nicaea conference, they're put in the final form in the 300s. So we don't know when the Gospels were written in the form we have. Some of the material might be early, some of it might be late. We have no idea. And no one's ever agreed on that either. There's no early version of the material that we can rely on, except something about John maybe in the 120s or something, but that's not very early. Yeah, get your name on there, because I'm gonna watch this very carefully.
The gospel narrator
No, the gospel is a story, whereas the hadith are little traditions about the prophet. But I'll tell you about them in a moment. They're much smaller. You know, they go like, I heard from so-and-so, I heard from so-and-so, who saw Muhammad do such and such. Wipe his nose, or clean his hands, or pray in a certain way, or answer in some manner, or so on. And there's little short snippets about what people testify, but they grew so vast that you can be sure that it's not all about the prophet. And that's what Western Easterners don't like about Westerners. That Westerners treat the hadith the same way they treat the Gospels. They criticize them. And they have basically a skeptical view of them. They have a skeptical view of the hadith literature. So that angers Eastern. So when we get people like Said, what's his name, Edward Said, that they make a sort of, paper god out of now because he's against Western Orientalists. He's made Western Orientalists the whipping boy. That's just nonsense. Western Orientalists have just applied the tools of Western redaction and text criticism to the Muslim materials, and Muslims don't like it. That doesn't mean Western Orientalism is wrong and Eastern Orientalism is right. It just means that Western Orientalists are trying to use their head, that's all. You say, well, Eastern Orientalists are not? You be the judge. I don't think that they are free within the context of the religions that they represent to operate in an objective, what we would call normal critical manner. Yeah, you see, they are, an Eastern Orientalist would be like someone in a school like a theological seminary, like someone up in Fuller Theological Seminary or something. Are those scholars at Fuller free scholars? No, they're not free, because they have to operate within the theological structure of that particular religious persuasion. So to criticize Western scholars, Orientals, it's just ridiculous. It's just pathetic. I've met some of the greatest Western Orientalists, and I don't consider myself one of them. My teacher at Columbia was he was so smart, it was beyond imaginable. He knew Islam inside and out. The Western Orientalists are really totally absorbed in Islam. His name was Joseph Schacht, editor of the Encyclopedia of Islam. He was an incredibly brilliant, insightful person. He loved Muslims, loved Islam. To say negative things about him is ridiculous. Anyway, he wrote a book called The Origins of Mohammedan Jurisprudence, where he explained what the different schools were and how they, from the hadith literature. And he's the one that identified Shafi as the key figure. I'll get to that in a moment. As it turns out, there are four great schools of Sunni jurisprudence. First of all, there's Abu Hanifa's school. Next, there's a person called Al-Malik. Then there's Shafi. Then there's Ibn Ahmed Ibn al-Hanbal.